Welcome to the October 2nd, 2025 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:01. Skills.
Present.
Absent tonight, Board Member Smith. Board Member Langley, I'm present. So next we'll move to citizen comments. This is open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you would like to speak on a specific item on the agenda, please wait until the citizen comment period for that item. For all citizen comments, please fill out a speaker card and hand it to staff. Come to the microphone and state your name and address and limit your comment to 2 minutes. And again, on each item, we'll have time for the applicant and any citizens to speak on those items. So this is kind of general comment period. Are there any citizens who would like to speak to the board? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the minutes. Consideration of approval of the August 7th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Move that we approve the minutes.
Motion made by Board Member Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Scales. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Staff announcements.
None.
Okay. We did talk about the Tennessee Planning Conference. I know, sounds like there was one other seminar. If you guys want to mention that again to us, just to jog our memory.
You might have to jog mine. The TAPA seminar is October 20th through the 22nd. The agenda has not been posted yet, so I think there is an item on that agenda for training for BZA, but I don't have that yet. So as soon as we get that, we'll reach out to you guys and let you know of that. There's also, I believe, going to be an opportunity for a video. They're going to make a video of the trainings that hopefully will be available before the end of the year. So, John, you're taken care of, though, because you were at yesterday's
Yes,
meeting.
yesterday I was letting him know the ULI Nashville. It was fantastic. It was here in this room and all yesterday morning. Great
Yeah.
learning opportunity.
Glad you could join. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. So item 2 is going to be a variance request to allow a 2-foot and 6-inch encroachment into the required 7-foot side yard setback for an existing principal building for the property located at 417 Forest Street. Staff.
Thank you. This 0.22 acre lot is located at 417 Forest Street and is zoned R4 Residential 4 District. There is an existing house and accessory structure on the lot. The existing house, accessory structure, and paved areas were built in 2022, but were not built according to the building permit that was submitted and approved in November 2022. The applicant requested 3 variances at the July 3rd, 2025 BZA meeting, which were denied. Since then, the applicant has remedied the appurtenance encroachment off the accessory structure and has removed portions of impervious pavement so that the minimum landscape surface area, or LSA, meets the 40% minimum. Since the conditions of the lot have changed since the applicant's previous variance request, the applicant is now requesting 1 variance for the remaining zoning ordinance violation. That variance request is to allow a 2-foot and 6-inch encroachment into the required 7-foot side yard setback for an existing principal building. I'll now go into staff analysis. The BZA may authorize a variance only when the request has met all 3 criteria in accordance with the Franklin zoning ordinance and state law. The staff has completed an analysis of the request in light of these criteria. Criteria 1, where by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property at the time of the enactment of the zoning ordinance, or by reason of exceptional topographic conditions or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions, such a piece of property is not able to accommodate development as required under this ordinance. Staff does not find any extraordinary conditions of this property that would prevent a single-family home from being located the required 7 feet from the side property line at this property. The approved building permit shows that an approximately 2,000 square foot home could be built within the setback requirements of this lot. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Criteria 2, the strict application of any provision enacted under the zoning ordinance would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties for, or exceptional or undue hardship upon the owner of the property. Staff does not find that the strict application of any provision enacted under the zoning ordinance would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties for, or exceptional or undue hardship upon the owner of the property. The hardship of needing to remedy the existing house that was built out of compliance is self-imposed. The practical difficulties presented by this situation are a result of the house not being built according to the approved plans, not a result of the strict application of the zoning ordinance. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Criteria 3. Such relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. Staff finds that this request would not be a detriment to the public good and would not impair the intent of the zoning ordinance. Part of the intent for setbacks is safety, and buildings are required to be at least 5 feet from a property line for fire safety. If a house is less than 5 feet from a property line, the house is required to be fire rated or have a sprinkler system installed. The applicant has met with city staff and has submitted a permit application for a sprinkler system, so the fire safety concern is being addressed. The applicant and owner of 417 Forest Street also owns 415 Forest Street, and since last month, the house at 415 Forest Street has been demolished. The house at 415 Forest Street was legally nonconforming and was approximately 2 feet from the side lot line. With that house being demolished, a new house on that lot will now need to conform with the required 7-foot setback, so the houses will not be as close as they were. Part of the intent of the zoning ordinance in this case is to have aesthetic consistency of spacing between houses. The side setbacks between the houses on the street are not consistent, so the inconsistency of this setback with the rest of the street is not obviously out of place. Staff finds this criteria is met. Recommended motion. Staff recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals move to deny the variance request to allow a 2-foot and 6-inch encroachment into the required 7-foot side yard setback for an existing principal building for the property located at 417 Forest Street because the criteria for granting a variance have not all been met. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Is the applicant present for this item? If you could step forward for us and state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Thank you to the board. My name is Brian Biglin. And I was here in July, if you don't remember, which I certainly do. We've done a lot since the July meeting. The house, as I said back then, I had purchased the lot to the left and to the right of the house. Both of those homes have been demolished at this point. And so, so there is no more fire hazard essentially for the house on the left. But in addition to that, we had a lot of concrete. We had only 27% permeability. Now we have 40% permeability by taking out the whole front area, which was concrete, and also the whole back patio and the side step along there. So the LSA has been met. So I've solved 2 of the variances that I had requested before, which are the 2 are kind of in my control. The third one, I did a lot of research in terms of moving the house. I had Don Toothman, who's an expert in the area. He provided an expert opinion and showed me basically how they move the homes is they dig a 4-foot by 4-foot trench under the home every 4 feet, and then they basically move the home. He said because of the home's construction being on a concrete slab without rebar, if they dig a 4-foot tunnel under the home, that concrete slab is going to collapse. And also, he said the second point is you're probably going to hit granite, you're probably going to hit rock before you get down 4 feet below this lot. So his opinion was the house cannot be moved. So it kind of leaves me in a tough spot of, I've done everything I can, and the house is, not able to be moved. Even if it were to be able to be moved, the drive would be out of compliance because it would be 9.5 feet wide. So I can't move it by 2 foot 6 inches and still have a 10-foot wide driveway. So even if I could move it, it's not, I wouldn't be able to move it. And I think the last thing is that in terms of, the neighborhood, my goal is to put houses back to where 415 and 419. And if you recall, 415 was only 2 feet from the property line, so these houses were only 6 foot 6 apart. Now, with that house being gone, I'll have the full 7 feet on the left and the 4.5 feet on the right, so we'll have better spacing in between. I think that's all that I would like to comment. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions for me?
I think we may, if you can sit tight, and we may have a couple for you
Okay.
here in a
All
few
right.
minutes. Thank you. All right, so next we will open the public comment. Are there any citizen comments on this item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public comment? Yeah, and I'll mention that. That's a good point, William. Staff did give the board members an email that was sent, I think late this afternoon from Miss Sandra Sugg. So we do have that. Just mention that. So, all right, is there a motion to close the public comment?
I move we close the public comment.
Motion made by Board Member Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Scales. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, public comment is closed. Questions for board members of the applicant or staff?
I have a question for staff. And pardon my ignorance on this question. This is a bit exploratory. So the homeowner owns 417 and owns 415. The encroachment issue is between those two lots. So it could be solved, in theory, if part of 415 became part of 417.
I don't think so, because 415 is not meeting the zoning ordinance minimums today. So
Right.
to make it smaller, to give some land to 417, you're making 415 smaller, making it more out of compliance, which is not allowed. Alternatively, you could combine the two, 415 and 417, and let them be one singular lot. And that would solve the issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions at all? All right, I'm ready to entertain a motion when a board member's ready.
Wait, I've got one question. It's probably for the applicant. So you looked at moving the house. Have you looked at any opportunities of removing the wall and encroaching into the house and making the house smaller?
The house is pretty narrow in that section, and that's where the kitchen is, and that's where the gas line comes in. So it would be extremely difficult to basically chop 2.5 feet off the house. Two-story house. And, it's, as I said, that's the primary entry of the utilities. And, we'd have to, structurally, I don't know that that would be possible to take away 2.5 feet of a house. And then the main kitchen, again, the kitchen area is probably already tight enough for terms of passways. If we were to try to move the island over, I don't think there would be enough passageway in between the island and the walls and the kitchen and the cabinets. So I think the narrowness of the home in that area wouldn't really allow for that kind of movement.
Have you considered combining the two lots to avoid the encroachment issue?
Buying them or combining?
Combining, I'm sorry.
Combining them.
Yes.
Of course, that's my last, that's my last resort. Then obviously I lose the ability to build on 415, which, is significant. So.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move that we, let me pull this up. I move that we deny the variance request to allow a 2-foot and 6-inch encroachment into the required 7-foot setbacks for existing principal building for the property located at 417 4th Street, because the criteria for granting a variance have not been met. Those lots are narrow, and to encroach on a 7-foot setback, which is really small setback, to encroach 2.5 feet into that setback and allow variance, I don't think that meets the zoning requirements.
Okay, motion made by Board Member Smith to deny the variance. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Board Member Beams. Discussion.
Does your concern also come if you put another home right beside it, and then what happens then?
Well, the lot, I did some research on the lot next to it to see how wide the lot was, to see if my question to Amy had any validity whatsoever. And that lot is very small and does not meet the requirements under the zoning ordinance today for width. So to move, even to ask to move 2.5 feet into the 417 lot would make that even smaller. So I expected Amy's response, but I did want it to be asked. I just think the lots are small and buildings need to be consistent with the lots in that neighborhood.
I know at the July meeting, I'll just make a couple of comments. The July meeting, we kind of thoroughly went through all three variances. I struggle with this one. It's an existing built home acquired kind of after the construction was done. So definitely feel for the applicant on this one, just working through a solution for a fully built home. Any additional comments?
I would say the same thing. I definitely feel for the applicant. I mean, this is an unfortunate situation. I recognize the hard work he's put in to try to bring it into compliance. We still have those lot size issues. I just don't know how we get around it. It is a really tough one.
Okay, any additional discussion? All right, let's take a vote. Let's go one by one. Board Member Beams. So we've got a motion for denial of the variance. That's kind of what's on the floor. Board Member Beams.
I'm with the deny.
Okay. Board Member Scales.
Deny.
Board Member Langley, deny, and Board Member Smith.
Deny.
All right, so the variance request is denied. So next is item number 3. It's a variance request to allow additional parking bays and drive aisles within the Noah Drive frontage area for a principal building for the property located at 245 Noah Drive. Staff?
Thank you. Give me 1 second. This 2.39 acre property is located at 245 Noah Drive and is zoned LI Light Industrial District. There is currently a 8,191 square foot building on the lot, and the applicant is proposing an additional 5,740 square foot building to be used as a warehouse. Due to the unique conditions of the lot, the applicant is proposing to locate the warehouse building at the back of the lot, which would require parking to be in front of the proposed building. Parking frontage is allowed in the light industrial zoning district, but is limited to 2 bays of parking and 1 drive aisle. Due to the unique conditions of the lot, the applicant is proposing more than 2 bays of parking and 1 drive aisle. For this reason, the applicant is requesting a variance to allow additional parking bays and drive aisles within the Noah Drive frontage area. I'm going to go straight into staff analysis. Let me know if you want me to repeat any of the criteria. Criteria 1, there are several unique conditions of this lot. In addition to the unique shape of the lot, the location of the existing building and the 50-foot buffer along the northern property line restrict options for additional development on this site. There is a 50-foot buffer along the northern property line because this property abuts a residential neighborhood to the north, which is required per the Franklin zoning ordinance. With the existing building location, the 50-foot buffer, and the unique shape of the lot, the proposed additional warehouse building would not be able to fit on the lot in a location that would allow the parking to be located behind the building. Staff finds this criteria is met. Criteria 2. In order to comply with the zoning ordinance regulations in this case, the applicant would likely not be able to build the proposed warehouse and keep the existing building on this lot. The applicant has attempted multiple configurations but have been unable to configure the lot in a way that would allow them to meet the zoning ordinance regulation. The lot is big enough to fit the existing building, the proposed building, and the necessary parking, but the only configuration that fits within the unique conditions of the lot cannot meet the zoning ordinance. This is a unique hardship. Staff finds this criteria is met. Criteria 3, staff finds that this request would not be a detriment to the public good and would not impair the intent of the zoning ordinance. Part of the reason for this request is to maintain the 50-foot buffer between this lot and the neighboring residential use, which is an effort to ensure that this proposed warehouse would not be a detriment to those neighbors. The intent of the zoning ordinance regulation is to avoid parking lots being the view of properties from the street. This lot slopes up from the street in a way that the back of the lot is barely visible from the street. This means the proposed parking being in front of the proposed building would barely be visible from the street, if at all. Staff finds this criteria is met. Recommended motion. Staff recommends the Board of Zoning Appeals move to approve a variance request to allow additional parking bays and drive aisles within the Noah Drive frontage area for a principal building for the property located at 245 Noah Drive because the criteria for granting a variance have been met. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. The applicant could step forward for us and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Jimmy Franks. Our company's Tennessee Valley Homes, been in Franklin all my life. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak before the board. We have a great office up there that builds wonderful cabinets. The cabinets are in such high demand with apartments in Franklin that we've approved over the years and the houses that we've approved that we just needed additional space to pull the finished cabinetry out of that building into this storage building that we're proposing. That allows the employees, which are only 7 guys over there, to continue building these fine cabinets. And so I'm not adding any more cars, any more parking to what we have there. It's just a needed building that fits very well into a real steep bank that backs up to APCOM, which is, got 50 acres there behind us. And the building down next to the railroad track. So, I'm going to answer any questions, but there is about a 2-acre lot in front of our building, our current building, that has about a 14,000 square foot building built in front of my current 8,000 foot building. So there's no visual to this proposed building and or the cars that are there. The cars will be at the exact same spot pretty much as they are today. We're just asking to be able to provide a service for Franklin. There's a huge shortage of light industrial in this city. And we, as planning commissioners, we hadn't been able to approve any more light industrial. And so it's moving on out, which create more traffic coming back in for that sake. But in any case, it's a little over 3 acres and it's underutilized, and I appreciate your support for it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will next move to citizen comments. Are there any citizen comments on this item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public comment?
Motion to close.
Motion made by Board Member Scales,
Second.
I jumped the gun on you there. Second by Board Member Beams. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so public comment is closed. Questions from the board of staff or the applicant? All right, I'm ready to entertain a motion if not.
A motion to approve the variance to allow additional parking bays and drive aisles within the Noah Drive frontage area for a principal building for the property located at 245 Noah Drive.
Okay, motion for approval made by Board Member Beams. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Scales. Let's go one by one on the vote. Board Member Beams.
I approve.
Board Member Scales.
Approve.
Board Member Langley, I approve. And Board Member Smith.
I approve.
All right, so variance request is approved. Next is item number 4. It's a variance request to allow a non-conforming structure to expand in a way that does not meet the 5-foot side yard setback requirement for the property located at 1127 Park Street. Staff?
Thank you. This 0.14 acre property is located at 1127 Park Street and is zoned R6 Residential District. There is an existing house on this property, and the applicant is proposing an addition to the existing house. The existing house is not completely parallel to the side lot line, so the setback varies from 3.81 feet to 4.16 feet. The minimum setback requirement for the R6 residential zoning district is 5 feet, but this house is allowed to remain in place because it is a legally nonconforming use. As stated in the Franklin zoning ordinance, a nonconforming use is any principal or accessory structure, use, structure, lot of record, sign, or tower that was lawfully established before the effective date of this ordinance and no longer complies with the ordinance is considered is considered nonconforming. The proposed addition to the house extends from the rear facade and maintains the width of the existing house. Since the existing house is not parallel to the side lot line and gets closer to the lot line as it extends back, the addition encroaches closer to the side lot line than the existing house as it extends back. At its closest point, the proposed addition is 3.49 feet from the side lot line. Since any addition to a non-conforming use is required to comply with the zoning ordinance standards, the addition is required to comply with the 5-foot side yard setback requirement. For this reason, the applicant is requesting a variance to allow a non-conforming structure to expand in a way that does not meet the 5-foot side yard setback requirement. Criteria 1. Staff does not find any extraordinary conditions of this property that would prevent development of an addition to the existing house within the setbacks on this property. While it is unique that the existing house is not completely parallel to the side lot line, that does not prevent the addition from being offset by 2 feet to comply with the setback requirements. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Criteria 2. Staff does not find that the strict application of any provision enacted under the zoning ordinance would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties for or exceptional or undue hardship upon the owner of the property. In order to comply with the zoning ordinance in this case, the addition could be reduced by 2 feet on the side or moved 2 feet to the west. There is not a driveway extending to the back of the property along the west side of the house or a garage in the rear, so moving the addition 2 feet would not impede on vehicular access to the backyard area. Regarding stormwater mitigation, the proposed dry well tanks may restrict the design of the addition if the applicant were to extend the addition back to compensate for meeting the side setback, but the proposed dry well tanks are not specifically required per the City of Franklin. There are other options for stormwater mitigation on the site that would likely allow the addition to extend farther back on the site. Additionally, there seems to be at least a few feet between the proposed dry well tanks and the proposed deck, so there is currently room to extend farther back with the proposed location of the dry well tanks. Without these options being explored in order to meet the zoning ordinance regulations, staff does not find that the location of the proposed dry well tanks causes a hardship. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Criteria 3. Staff finds that this request may be a detriment to the public good and would impair the intent of the zoning ordinance. Part of the intent of the zoning ordinance regulation is to provide a buffer between buildings and to have aesthetic consistency with setbacks in a neighborhood. In addition to the house already being close to the side lot line, the addition would encroach even closer. This lessens the buffer to the neighboring house and would be visibly closer to the side lot line from the street. This does not meet the intent of the zoning ordinance. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Recommended motion. Staff recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals move to deny the variance request to allow a non-conforming structure to expand in a way that does not meet the 5-foot side yard setback requirement for the property located at 1127 Park Street because the criteria for granting a variance have not been met. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Is the applicant present for this item? If you'd like to step forward for us, state your name and address for the record, and add any additional comments.
Yeah,
for us,
Matt
that'd be great.
Knutson, KCK Custom Builders. I think Ariella pretty much covered everything there. We understand that there's rules that need to be followed and all that, but I don't really have anything to say, but I know family members would like to comment when their time is up.
Yeah, I tell you what, if you could just help me out, I know
Yeah.
I'll have questions on this one eventually, but
Yeah.
I'm just looking through the exhibits, was just trying to understand, if you could just generally kind of walk us through, like where the addition is. I've got, in the submittal documents, I kind of have layout of the home. Just if you could walk us through the connection between the setback and the,
So
kind of the new house plan, that'd be helpful.
Ariella explained, the house is not completely parallel with the property, the side property lines. The front and rear property lines are skewed. So the property is not square or rectangular, it's skewed. The existing house is not completely parallel with the side property line, as you can see on the survey there. And, for us to follow the sides of the house going back with the addition, it gets a little bit closer to the left side property line there.
May have a couple more questions for you in a few minutes, but you have anything else to add? Okay.
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so next we'll open it up to public comment. I've got one speaker card here from Miss Lisa Coffey. If you'd like to step forward for us and add your comments.
Hello. My name is Lisa Coffey, and I'm speaking on behalf of 1127 Park Street. It's just not land to us, it's actually our family home. This is where I brought my daughter home, and we're just trying to make this home a better place for my mom. My mom is 88 years old, and we want to assure her that she'll be able to stay in her home for the rest of her life. With that being said, what we're trying to do is make her have a bigger bedroom to accommodate any needs she have to take care of her as she get older. We want to be able to keep her in a home, never sending her to a nursing home. And we just want to make her room where she can, if she need a walker to get in it, if she need a walker or a bed or a bigger bed or something to accommodate her needs, that's what we're trying to do. We've been there, that's where we have all our meetings, our gatherings, Easter egg hunts, everything. We need to be able to get into the backyard just in case for parking, because it's only limited parking on Park Street. So sometimes when we have family gatherings, we have to pull our cars in the backyard, and we just want to be able to do that to accommodate the family that comes to Mom's house. And the last thing I have to say, as trying to make this better for her, I didn't say anything about my dad because we tried to make the house better for both of them. And my biggest fear, my biggest nightmare is the same thing that happened to my mom, that happened to my dad as we tried to make it better for them, is my dad passed. And he never got to live in his house. He never got to see the complete thing. He only got to see it in motion. And that's the only thing that scares me about stopping this, is the time. And the time that we just want to spend with our mom, making her happy, and knowing that she'll never have to go to a nursing home. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional citizen comments? Okay. All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public comment?
A motion to close the public comment?
Second.
Motion made by Board Member Beam, second by Board Member Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, public comment is closed. Questions from the board of the applicant or staff? So if staff could kind of, go ahead.
I believe this question is first going to go to staff. Of what we have seen on other instances, would this application of fire rating that wall or sprinkling the wall satisfy the additional length of home to the back of the property?
It would help meet the building code requirement. It would not still meet the zoning ordinance requirement, but fire rating closer than 5 feet to the property line would be required if it's approved, whether that's with fire-rated materials or a sprinkler system.
Thank you.
Can I elaborate further on that question? Would the entire house need to be fire rated, or would it just be the addition?
No, ma'am, just the addition.
I guess my question also maybe of the applicant, if I can ask the question.
Yeah, if you'd like to step forward for us again.
The staff analysis indicates that they don't feel like the option to move that structure over so that it meets the 5-foot setback has been explored. Did you all consider that, or is it just the dry wells or whatever it is that they're called?
Right, so yeah, as far as if we just took the addition and shifted that over so it does not encroach in the setback, it would impede on the the pathway to get vehicles to the backyard. As they had mentioned, there's parking for 2 vehicles in front of this house on the street. And then they've got the driveway, which the driveway is primarily in the front of the property. However, as they mentioned, when they have gatherings, when they have family come over, they need to keep running their cars down next to the house and sometimes into the backyard to let everybody park there, so they're not blocking up the street. So that's one reason why we don't want to shift it over. And then the dry wells in the back, there's going to be what we've planned, the addition, and then a deck, and then the dry wells in the ground. The dry wells are to retain stormwater. They're to collect stormwater and then let it slowly leach into the ground. Behind the dry wells, there's a couple of storage buildings that are existing. And, as they've mentioned with the gatherings, they have a lot of family come over, Easter egg hunts, and, all kinds of, gatherings back there. And it's already a small lot. So we don't want to push further back and make the backyard any smaller than it is for the large family when they come over and visit from not only in town, but from folks out of town when they come to visit. So that's where we're really, really hoping that if there's any possible way, we can follow along with the plan that we have. And as Shanna mentioned, potentially fire rating, fireproofing, however we want to refer to that. The addition area, that's definitely something that we would be open to doing if this was allowed.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
I have another question for you.
Yeah.
Have you explored an option with the family to set back, not the entire addition, but just as you turn that corner? Because the distance between what it looks like as an island and, I don't know, it's not called out, maybe it's a pantry. It seems like that's a generous space. Would you have the ability to shrink, and take the master bedroom, take all of that and just push it to the setback? And then at that corner, you could make it a moment. It looked like you had a trash can or something, or
Jog the corner.
just make a little jog. I think you ought to explore that option to see if it's a relevant solution.
Yeah, we definitely have talked about that, decreasing the width on the addition. And as we've mentioned, there's a lot of family that gathers at this house. There has been for many, many years. Even with the addition, it's still going to be, in my opinion, a small house. So decreasing the width of that, and I totally understand and appreciate your thoughts on that. Decreasing the width on that, I don't feel that that's going to still allow them to, have Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinners and, have everybody in the house and comfortable. So that's why we didn't really want to decrease the width on that.
How much does it decrease the square footage?
2.5 feet by, I think, about 30 feet. So we're, I guess, about 75 square feet.
Well, I saw you had 3D renderings, so you could do it on the inside, get them to look and feel how it looks.
Yeah. It's already been tricky fitting everything together and, in the space that we've built. And as mentioned, thinking about the future, potentially having a walker or maybe a wheelchair, we're trying to keep it as open as possible. Like I said, thinking about the future and not impeding on, Miss Murray to be able to get around freely in her home.
Any additional questions? If you could walk me through, I've got the diagram up with the floor plan, board member beams, just to make sure I kind of understand what you're saying. Which section were you saying? I'm following the plat where, north is what we're looking at on the screen there. You've got Park Street. So just making sure I follow. I got you. So on the floor plan then, is that part of the family? Is that the section that it's on the bottom part of that exhibit?
No, it's the master bath, the master bedroom.
I got you.
It's a master bath, master bedroom,
So
master
it's the-
closet.
Gotcha. So that's the top part of the exhibit. That's helpful. Thanks. I'm ready to entertain a motion. We can have more discussion if board member wants to make a motion. That is helpful. Thanks, staff, for pulling that up.
Bill, I have a question for you. If we were to deny the motion today, could they come back with modified plans and then present again something consistent with what my colleague has recommended here?
The short answer is yes. The longer answer is you have an item before you now that you'll make a decision on. If they make changes to that, it will be a different item at that point. You'd make a different decision.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I'm gonna move to deny the variance request because the criteria for granting a variance have not been met.
Motion for disapproval made by Board Member Skels. Is there a second?
Second, and I would also like to discuss.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, second by Board Member Smith. Discussion.
Go ahead, go for it, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm struggling with
well,
this one.
This one is, I agree, I so sympathize with
Yeah.
the need to want to stay in your own home. I truly do, and I applaud you for wanting to do that and helping your mom to do that. My concern is that we don't look at just, we have to look at the whole, and we can't look at just the impact of this one lot. We have to look at the impact of the other lot and the neighborhood and how it's consistent within all the zoning requirements. And toward that end, that setback is already below what it's supposed to be for the entire house. To put an addition that's going to be even closer to the setback is just really concerning to me on the impact to the neighbor.
And what I would add to that is, I am very curious about methods to take into consideration the setbacks. A rendering, it may take that into consideration. We only have this one version here that for all the reasons my colleague has stated, it does not satisfy the zoning ordinance. I greatly sympathize with the family. I fully understand wanting to have a family space. It's just we are confined to the criteria that we have. And I'm just struggling to see how we can make it fit in those criteria.
I'll make a couple comments. I think, I've thought about this one for a while. When I first read the staff report, kind of looking through the criteria, I pull up the aerial, and that kind of gives me, we had one setback item earlier tonight, almost a different issue. Comments made kind of about parking, access to the backyard, and even, if I'm looking at the aerial correctly, I think the addition would, I'm looking at the two adjacent lots and the existing structures on those lots. We've got quite a bit of space, between the adjacent structure there on that next lot. So I'm torn on this one. Definitely small footprints, I think. Total square foot, total existing square footage is 751 square feet. Under roof, 824. I think about where I live, I've got about 2,000 square feet, and sometimes that feels pretty small. So definitely torn on this item. Just looking at the request, kind of thinking through Board Member Beam's comments on, is there a way to reconfigure the house? Because if it's reconfigured, there may not even be a need for a variance request if it's at least 5 foot over, correct? Any additional comments? All right, let's take a vote. Let's go one by one.
Let me try one other thing. If you were to use that corner as your pivot point, and you angled, but the lot line is angled, and you were to come back and strike a line at 5 feet, what would be your thoughts on something like that? Not a design, I'm just saying from a setback standpoint.
Bill, can we do hypotheticals?
Yeah, it's, you can discuss however you want. It's not a good idea to speak to how you might vote in the future on something. And it can be challenging to try and offer design suggestions to an applicant who's going to go away and may or may not do something too.
I think that's the challenge. My thing is we're looking at the setback, so whatever we are looking at a floor plan, but we're voting on the setback variance, not the plan necessarily. So that's what makes it a challenge. That's kind of why I struggle even with my comments, just looking at it. Is it, because context, I think, is important to me. Setbacks and context and existing conditions, those all three factor into my thought process. Let's take a vote one by one. So we have a motion for disapproval, motion and a second. So Board Member Beams,
I deny.
Board Member Scales.
Deny.
I'll vote to approve, so I'm going to go against the denial. Board Member Smith.
Deny.
All right, so we've got 3-1. So variance is denied.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So last item of business is a motion to adjourn.
I move we
second.
adjourn.
Motion made by Board Member Smith, second by Board Member Beams. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.